as they come. All right, here we are again. Last Friday of every month, we've got our Elite Business Mastermind. We alternate months on a bit of the topic, so this will be great. Great to see everyone back. We'll keep letting people into the room as it goes. Let me open up the deck here. Okay, so ideally, who are you in this room? You're an owner or you're some sort of executive level. Fundamentally, do you have some decision-making power? That's kind of the thing that we're looking for. All right, some of the agreements. We want to be curious for all of our questions. Be respectful, of course. Be succinct. Get to the point. We're all executives in the room, so we generally understands things. I would say rapidly. Show up to each session. We do prefer video is on. So we can kind of see a reaction and get to understand and build a relationship. AI is fine as long as you're in the room. So I don't mind having an eye on these calls. Just make sure you're in the room as well. No, just sort of like, I'm going to throw my AI on there and I'll read that later. And if you can advise, raise your hand on the app or connect via chat. Also share contact information in the back end. Also, we've already had a few of those really good relationships kind of form because of people being like, oh, I can help you out with that, which is really, really great. Okay. All right, let me continue on here. All right, what's the format? We're going to do a couple of member intros, which will be great. What's the big goal you're working on? We want to keep that in mind. The reason why I want you to think about what big goal you're working on is because it'll contextualize some of the topic. So if you're like, okay, I'm working on this goal and we're talking about this topic, it'll kind of connect, which is a beneficial thing. Did you commit to anything last session and did you accomplish it? Today we're going to do a little bit of a mix of topic and case study. The case study is pretty demanding. We're going to spend 10 minutes instead of 8 minutes on it. We'll go through any submitted questions and some open question periods, some closing takeaways, and then talk about the next mastermind date. So that's the format. All right, introductions. Let's get into a few introductions here. And I'll kind of pick on a few different people who perhaps have not done their introduction at this time. So Heather, why don't you do yours? Your name, your role and title, your business name, and what in it, kind of tell us a bit about your business, a recent win or a business goal, and then how does someone get a hold of you?
Okay. I'm Heather Bears. I am the owner and director of Zoetica, which is an environmental consulting firm. We work almost, equally between government contracts for private clients who are building various things, often mines. And the third group we work for are First Nations and often in a legal capacity doing technical third-party reviews. We're highly focused on biodiversity. Bit about our business is that there's a lot of legal regulatory issues that a lot of groups need to understand or adhere to if they're a private client when building various things. So we help them navigate that world, but we also help to implement best practices and basically get social and environmental buy-in for projects. Recent wins are we're really trying to diversify the business within bounds. So diversification can mean a lot of different things in environmental consulting. So we're just going out a little bit further into the biodiversity world. And we, I guess, recently made a strategic hire of one of the lead aquatic and fisheries people from another large firm. So I think that was a good win. Yeah, and our goals are growth, slow and careful organic growth, but growth. We've opened a second office in Ontario. I'm now looking to populate that after this hire. And how does someone get a hold of me? You can go onto our website at zoeticaenvironmental.com, and I can also leave my email address in the comments box here.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, everything about what you guys do, I think, is pretty awesome, and your approach is really great as well, especially that very non-biased approach that you have in your work. Okay, cool. Monty, why don't you step up to bat and do a little intro here for yourself?
All right, just got to figure out how to take the mute off.
Oh, there you go.
How's everyone doing?
Great, great.
Good, good. Yeah, so a little background on me. I used to be a registered nurse, and I stepped out of that field about 10 years ago and became a small business owner under the Sun Life umbrella, becoming licensed with insurance and wealth. I've been building my practice ever since. Started out with one employee. Now I have a shared pool of administration, 8 employees in there, looking at bringing on a successor, maybe a partner, debating that still and looking for that. I work here in Vancouver, Lower Mainland, work a lot from home, but I have an office downtown. Yeah, how to get a hold of me. I can pop my digits in here, but also I have a website, Monty Martins, that's sunlight.com. And yeah, that's about it.
Fantastic. Yeah, great. Thanks for that intro, Monty. And Christy, welcome for the first time to the Mastermind. Why don't you do a little introduction for yourself as well?
Hello. Yes, thank you so much. I'm Christy. I am the co-founder and editorial director of Loose Lips Media. So about Loose Lips Media, it is a digital marketing company, and we mostly work with people in the indie film community. So some of our clients include the Vancouver International Film Center, TELUS Story Hive, basically places where you can watch films or get films funded. Um, and this is kind of funny. This is very internal facing, but I recently sold my shares, but I am still working in the business. So I would call that partially a win. And then, or I would call that a win. And I'm branching out freelance to do a little bit of PR, public relations for indie film, which is funny because I started out my career as a journalist, and now I'm sort of on the other side, pitching magazines and blogs for people in the indie film community. And you can get a hold of me at my email, christy@looselipsmedia.ca, if you have a film that you want to promote.
Yeah, awesome. That's great, Christy. Okay, let's get into it. I sent out this quote, or this not a quote, but a kind of a mini blog post that Seth Godin does. If you don't follow Seth Godin, I highly recommend you just go onto sethgodin.com and start following. I think it's absolutely fantastic. We're talking about signal to noise ratio. So just give this a read. I'm not going to read it back for you on here. And this is like just a really great way of kind of thinking about, am I paying attention to the right thing? There's a lot of noise, and trying to figure out the signal, both the one that we are sending and the one that we are receiving, makes sense. This is fundamentally what we're talking about. And if we have the ability to cut down our noise and improve our signal, like the last line says here, we're going to be far more effective. Okay, so that's the topic that we're talking about, signal versus noise. This will be tied to the case study that we do as well. So you will be popping into some breakout rooms. Okay. All right. So where does signal and noise kind of live? Many places, but we're going to sort of tighten this down slightly. The first one is communication. So this is communication. Communication relies on at least two parties. You can't have communication with one party. Okay. At least two parties, sometimes more. You are either receiving or delivering when it comes to communication. Are you delivering signal or noise? It's super important to understand when you're doing one or the other. Same thing with when someone else is communicating. Are you picking up what they're actually saying, or are you picking up the noise around what they're saying? And we want to pay attention to what we're paying attention to. I had sent out a quick little reminder with a Stephen Covey statement from one of his books, and it says, the problem is the way you see the problem. So it's the same thing. The problem is what you're seeing and how you're delivering, signal or noise. The second one is messaging. Now, messaging can be one-sided. You may have multiple recipients. So when you're receiving messaging, you're generally not able to communicate back immediately. You might communicate back with dollars. Oh, that messaging, I get that messaging. You might communicate back with compliance. You might communicate back with acceptance. When you're sending out messaging from your business or from yourself individually, is the message clean? Is there more signal or more noise? When we used to kind of have to like dial in the radio and, it kind of like, did we get exactly that radio station? And of course, all the really cool radio stations had these really low band FM frequencies. And you sometimes would end up with this crossover of like two radio stations at the same time, or a little bit of static. The messaging was hard to get through, right? But when you got it, you kind of got it, you appreciated it. But the same thing is true when it comes to messaging for your business. Can people understand what it is you're talking about? The other one is the identity. So when we're communicating identity, we're communicating what matters to us. So is your communication around the identity of your business, the identity of who you are as a leader, the identity of what you're putting out and how you're perceived into the world? How much signal, how much noise? So these are all the areas that you kind of have to really kind of check in on as you're going through this, okay? Process. Noisy processes can be the death of business. Now, I recently just did some work with Duncan and Andrew there, and one of the things I was talking about was this idea of process can sometimes be, you can add steps to make things more effective. I use the example of drive-through, right? Drive-through windows used to have one window, and you drive up to that window, you'd place your order, you'd do the cash payment, you'd wait for the food, and then you drive away. Over time, what they did was they added steps to the process to increase signal and remove noise. They added a second window, one for payment, one for pickup. They added another order box. Then they added 2 lanes to get to the order box. They actually added steps to make it for a cleaner process. On the other side, you've got something like Amazon, where now you can just literally hit one button and the thing you want will show up several hours later. There's no other steps. Again, signal versus noise, very important to cut through. And then this is the big one. Are you solving the right issue? Are you aware of the issue that is the true source of the issue, or are you focused on the other collateral aspects of what's going on? We all have issues in our business. We'll all have issues that we have to deal with suppliers and clients and internal issues within team members or project load or capacity. Are you focused on the correct issue? And how many issues are there, and you're trying to cover all of them? And which ones are actually signal and which ones are actually noise? Anyone have any comments on this? Let's open it up slightly.
I have a comment, Edwin.
Yeah,
So, in the context of like sitting in a meeting, I'm assuming as a participant of that meeting, there might be, there's lots of back and forth communication. In moments, some of the communication might be noise to you, but signal for others. And then in other moments, that might be a signal for you and noise to the others, or the reverse. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so there's some truth to that for sure. There might be some things that contextually don't apply to you. So if you're sitting in a massive leadership meeting, and the marketing person is speaking, and that really has very little, like maybe there's some financial dollars going on, and the finance person is kind of like, okay, this is not really of that much importance to me. I would still call that signal. I wouldn't call that noise, because it's still relative to what's going on for the entire operation. Noise is like bringing in additional data that's confusing actually what's being spoken about. So it would be, oh yeah, so marketing, and by the way, Bob from such and such company was like on and on and on about this and this and this. There's this long-winded story shows up. And everyone's like, well, who's this for? Like, what was that story about? Was I learning something from the story? Was it a metaphor for something? Were we supposed to get something out of it? Or did Bob just want to share the story? And so there has to be a contextual tie-in to what's going on. Now, one of the other really important things about what you just mentioned, Andrew, is that the marketing person ought to know who's in the room and try to tie in and say, hey, this marketing initiative is going to create an increase in production, which is going to increase the number of invoices that are going to come through finance. And so can they add signal to the people that are relevant to the room would be another way to do that. Yeah, really great comment. Anybody else want to comment or have a question? Okay, here's some fundamental questions. How do you know which is which? Which is signal and which is noise? How long do you spend with the noise? How long do you spend with the signal? And do you, as a leader, create more noise or more signal? You could literally make that a goal. You could say for the next quarter, the next 3 months, I'm going to focus on becoming more signal, less noise. It'd be a great goal. I guarantee your team will love you. You will become a champion and a hero if you do this. Now, this doesn't mean that if you're very vocal that you kind of like just become a robot and only talk about the issues, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being very clean with the messaging. Here's the thing about spending time with more noise versus signal. Sometimes the noise is easier to deal with. Sometimes, not always. So you get bigger wins. More often, that mean nothing. It's like this kind of like this positive dopamine response of having a win comes through. But you actually solved a problem. Like we talked about this last time where we said, don't major in minor things. So very important. All right, let's go to the case study because we're going to spend some time on this one and then really discuss it. This case study is big. So what I want you to do is I want you to screen cap some of the case study, and I'm going to there is a document that you should be able to access once I open it up as well. But feel free to screen cap the case study or make some notes because there's a lot on here. Okay. So we're going to talk about this case study. So screen cap the next 2 slides. I will share the doc in the room also, but that's a new technology that Zoom's put in, so we'll see if it works or not. We'll break out into breakout rooms. You guys will have 10 minutes to talk about this. We'll come back to the main group, and then someone from your group will present your key findings and whatever your proposed strategy is to the larger group. Nice, clean 1 to 2 minute explanation. We'll have more discussion and any questions around it as well. Okay. All right. Any questions? All right. Here we go. Here's the overview. Astrid is the CEO of ARC Engineering. It's an architecture firm specializing in sustainable building design. Over the past year, ARC has experienced steady growth. Astrid is worried about operational distractions that hurt the firm's strategic objectives. Okay, that's the lay of the land. Here we go. Business goals. There are 4 of them. Number 1, expand service offerings into renewable energy systems within the next year. Okay. Goal number 2, get a 20% increase in project efficiency. They're going to do this by bringing in new technology. So a little bit of innovative there. Goal number 3, gain a 15% increase in market share, specifically in the sustainable architecture sector. Number 4, cultivate a workplace culture that retains top engineering and architectural talent. Okay, those are the goals. Grab a screen cap of that. Here comes all of the things that Astrid is currently has on her plate. There are 8 of them. Client requests for last-minute changes. Clients have begun requesting frequent last-minute design changes to their projects, which disrupts workflow and causes frustration amongst project teams. None of us have dealt with this. Situation number 2, employee complaints about project overlap. Project managers, PMs, they're reporting grievances about overlapping schedules and not enough resources. Problem number 3, focus on awards and recognition, or situation 3, I should say. The firm has made a cultural shift towards industry awards. They want to drive teams to invest time in award submissions. Situation 4, employee turnover. Rather than vocal complaints, exit interviews show patterns of frustration related to a lack of career development and mentoring opportunities. Situation 5, there is an unyielding demand for detailed project reports. Department heads are overwhelmed with requests, therefore detailed project status reports and metrics. The idea is to maintain oversight and address potential issues. Number 6, reduced client engagement in initial meetings. Clients are not satisfied at they are satisfied, sorry, at project completion, but early phase planning meetings, they're not engaged. Number 7, external industry changes. There's a regular discussion about regulatory changes in building code and sustainability certifications. So there's some governance issues going on there. And number 8, decrease in innovation metrics. While teams appear busy, the firm's innovation tracking shows a reduction in new product concepts and designs being proposed. Okay, so that's the situation. There's 8 of them. Get a screen cap of that if you can. Your goal at the end of this is which of these are situations are noise and which ones are signal. And what would you suggest for Astrid to achieve her desired business goal? I'll show you the goal sheet again. Okay, any questions about that while I set up the breakout rooms? I will go through a manual assignment here. I know some of you are dealing with this, a lot of these exact same issues, so I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. Okay, I'm just assigning the rooms here, so let's just take one moment. Sign. And actually, I'm going to make 2 of these rooms for people. You'll see yourself shift slightly in a second. So 1 second. I'm just going to move, Azul, I'm just going to move you and Lee, so don't quite join yet. Okay, the room should be open. See it on the bottom of your sheet there. I just put let me pause it. Coming back in. All right, I made it really easy for you guys on figuring out what signal, what's noise.
It's like speed dating, man. Holy
Yeah.
smokes.
Yep, for sure. You know, this is not easy. This is not an easy one because they can all appear important. Okay, so let's look at Duncan, who is in your breakout room, who's going to present on this with this goal in mind. Next steps for Astrid and clarifying that. Who's going to present in your room?
Yeah, hey, I'm happy to present. I didn't I'm driving right now, so I didn't record them, but I think I can remember all of them. So I'm just gonna zoom in.
I took notes, Duncan, if you want some help.
Yeah, you guys can tag team it for sure.
Awesome. And sorry, my camera won't turn back on, so I am here in present.
Okay, no, it's all good.
So we were talking about client requests for last minute changes. We went sort of half and half at the beginning, and then we decided that this was sort of in the noise category. Last minute changes with clients happen all the time, and it's just kind of part of the job. You can get really busy with this, but I don't think it's like a signal of an overall issue. Are we letting other people answer, or do you want all the answers
Yeah,
from our
so
group?
sort of present one key finding for you guys and something that you would really kind of suggest. And then we'll kind of bounce around so that so each group can kind of present.
Okay, like a key finding from the whole experience.
Yeah.
Okay. So we found the things that were signals overall were the employee complaints of overlap, focus on awards and recognition, the reduced client engagement, employee turnover, and decrease in innovation metrics. Those things were all a signal of a workplace that's kind of not really working anymore. Everybody's overloaded. And we want to focus on, getting those awards and recognition to like make that increase and make that visibility of your business that much better. And I think sort of what we came to was we need to hire a few more people in this business to improve the processes of what's going on here. So taking away some administrative tasks, being able to branch out in projects so that people can do their best work in the projects that they have.
All right, good. Yep, good finding. Who wants to speak for, I think there was a group with Azul and you guys were in a different group. Who wants to talk in that group?
Yeah, I can speak on that.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Andrew.
So it sounds like we had some similar discussion as the other group as far as our logic is concerned. What we kind of jumped right into was the 8 situations, and we didn't necessarily go down the list of the goals right off the top. So I thought that was kind of interesting that naturally we just went through the situations first and tried to weed out the signal from the noise. We landed on 3 signals and 5 items that were noisy. And I think towards the end of the discussion, what we recognized was with the business goals, focusing on maybe one of those 4 priorities would be a good starting point. And once you've solved it, then moving on to the next and identifying, which is going to be your signal out of those items would be a logical way to tackle it. So the 3 that we identified as signals are the employee turnover, the reduced client engagement in initial meetings, and the decrease in innovation metrics. The first one as well was debated back and forth whether that was one worth focusing on or not. So I'll pause there.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Great. Good insight. Good insight. Marcel and Heather. I know Ashley's in the midst of trying to catch a flight right now, so she's off screen. But what was some of the takeaways there?
You want to take that, Heather?
I can try. We didn't quite get through them all. So we kind of had the overarching issue here seemed to be not enough time to achieve the goals. So we sort of focused on the things that were noisy, that were maybe taking up too much time or unnecessary. So the unyielding demand for detailed project reports, simplifying that process. External industry changes, regular discussions about regulatory changes. It's great to keep your eye on it and monitor it, but maybe waiting until something's kind of on the books and actually going to change and updating people. You can have endless meetings about that sort of thing. And then we talked a little bit about the linkage between client requests for last minute changes and reduced client engagement in initial meetings. Often increasing client engagement in initial meetings and really clarifying scope and processes can really reduce the last minute changes if they understand that they're going to be paying for each one. And so there's maybe a linkage there of reducing number one by increasing 6. And then the employee complaints about project overlap and turnover trends maybe being the biggest signal of, not enough time to achieve these other goals, and really having to, reduce some of these other unnecessary or, maybe overzealous tasks and simplify everything. The focus on awards and recognition, we thought, pursuing industry awards, again, that's maybe the cart before the horse. If people feel like they don't have enough time, are they really going to want to put time into investing in submissions for industry awards? That might attract talent in the future, but it's not dealing with the immediate issue of employees not having enough time to have their career development, mentoring, and to have adequate resources for their projects right now. Yeah. And then the decrease in innovation metrics. And I mean, again, if the team's too busy and you're not able to hire new people, you're not going to get much innovation. People are just trying to survive rather than having time to actually think of unique solutions. So there's a lot of I'd say busy work that's taking away from time, which is needed.
Yeah, Marcel, you had one thing when I popped into your room as well, about connecting objective to, do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, I guess I Heather, thanks. She did a great job going through all those. I would just say at a macro level, I think it's easy in any of these situations, we can all relate that the surface answer goes, oh, if we had more resources, no problem. But most businesses have a financial constraint to just add a whole bunch of resources. So I think it takes courage, but I think at a macro level, you've got to go lead with the question of, if we've got 8 situations, which ones directly link to the previous slide, which is the goals that we set out? And if they don't have a direct link, even if they're nice, even if they're shiny, even if you're good at it, I think you got to be ruthless and go either completely stop doing it, which sounds crazy, but like the example Heather used about going after awards, just stop. Invest 0 energy and time in going after awards so that you can free up resources to put on the top pieces. You could argue that the awards, for instance, creates a work culture of retaining top engineers, but it's not working. And no kidding, because it's an outward facing thing. It's marketing to people to come in and work for you, but we don't deliver on that promise because we're too scattered with our resources. So one day you might be able to fix that and change it, but you've got to be ruthless about killing it. And if I got Heather right, I think she was saying number 3, number 5, and number 7 on the next slide. You'll either completely stop them or significantly reduce the energy and resources by simplifying what you're doing in there. And on number 5, yeah, particularly in our group, Heather was talking really eloquently about how, maybe we reduce the amount of reports and ensure only metrics that are connected to the previous slide are measured. And so that keeps you focused, your compass is right, and it's a lot less work in there, a lot less noise.
Yeah, great. Who wants to comment on some of the comments and insights from each of the groups? Additional observations now that there's a bit more clarity on some of what we were talking about. I would also like to say that Marcella and Heather were in the smallest group. There was an imbalance. Most groups had 5 people, and they had 3. That's I kind of did that on purpose, just to kind of see if the nature of diving in deeper was easier with less voices. Okay, so I've got some thoughts on this for sure. I mean, I designed the case study, so I've definitely got some thoughts on this. Okay, unyielding demand for detailed project reports is a waste of time. If they spent more time on innovation metrics, the very last one, that could solve for the number of reports. If you had a better dashboard, if you had a better innovative structure, better software, better all sorts of other stuff, that could automate what the reports needed. So I would take whatever was being spent in the demand for detailed project reports and shift 80% of it into developing innovative processes and structures, just to basically solve for that. It's just the way it works. Just much more easier. I think every one of you latched onto the idea that the initial client meeting needs to be solved. That'll probably solve a lot, not all, let's say 50% of last minute changes. So front load, absolutely front load for sure. If you spend more time up front, at least you know how far you've deviated from the plan. I would lead into that 100%. I also agree with the idea that the focus on awards and recognition should probably drop off. You don't have it dialed in yet. And so, whether you're creating a repository of things that you've done so that you can later kind of showcase them, sure. But that's very important as well. And then the employee turnover trends. One of the goals was to retain top talent. And so if you can really attract top talent, a lot of the other things then at a higher productivity and a higher level skill set are going to solve for some of the issues that are kind of being presented in the first place. Top talent will also be able to deal with, so to really focus on that, the turnover trends, development, developing into the team, because those people will have a better time dealing with complaints about project overlap. Less skilled people won't know how to deal with project overlap on a micro level, on an autonomous level. More skilled people can deal with project overlaps. They're just going to be better at it. They'll know how to prioritize. They'll understand what the project goals are. And so that's going to remove a lot of that in there as well. External industry changes. I would probably figure out some way to just deal with a governance assessment or summary, or I would hire a third party to tell me what's relevant to my industry. I would offload it. I'd just be like, hey, can someone tell us what's going on in this area? Maybe it's a part of a board. Maybe it's a part of of an industry specific structure that monitors that stuff, and they can feed you that data as opposed to trying to do it internally. Right, kind of the equivalent of like what ICBA does in the construction sector or food restaurant association does in another sector, or mining association does on another sector. So all these things will feed that data for you because they have teams to do that. That's their job. Like, hey, this is what's coming down the pipeline in this particular industry. Oh, okay, great. And then you can make some strategic decisions. On a high level, I would say that these goals need to be very clearly communicated on a regular basis to the entire team. Because then they're also going to remove a lot of the things that are not associated on a micro level. Leadership that doesn't share their goals is going to suffer from a bunch of people who are going to do the thing that they're good at. And if I'm really good at one of those things that doesn't matter, I'm going to focus my time and energy there, and it doesn't really matter to the larger picture. So those are a few of my insights and takeaways. Okay, so a little bit of open discussion on this. Who wants to shoot?
I think it's so interesting that different groups kind of came up with different scenarios, and I think maybe that's based on some of our industries and what's important in our industries. Edwin, I think I like that you use the word offloading, because for me the solution was, let's get a couple more employees in there and like help smooth out the workflow processes. But I didn't think about hiring contractors to offload some of that busy work instead.
Yeah, great. Yep. Very good insight. What else? Amon, you're an astute dude. What's what's something you noticed?
What I was thinking is about innovation that is a strong signal to me. And, it can help to, solve many of the problems that, in multiple parts. Even, last minute changes, when you have better tools, you can handle them quicker, it can create a more creative atmosphere in the company for employees, which can reduce, because some turnovers can be resulted from not innovative atmosphere, so people just work like a robot. So having more innovative atmosphere may help to reduce the turnover as well.
Yeah, great point there. Yeah, especially if that's the type of talent that is attracted to that industry, right? Okay, so here's the task. Here's the ask for you guys. Over the weekend, over the next week, over the next 4 weeks before our next session, I want you to really find out and really dive in to what are signal and noise for you. And specifically, each of these things was presented in that case study. Who are we? What are we messaging? How are we communicating? What are our processes? What are our issues? I want you to start to dive in and say, where is this occurring for me? One of the largest European motorcycle manufacturer is going bankrupt. Focused way too much on noise, not enough signal. Okay, KTM, $892 million market cap. About to sink. MotoGP teams are under stress. The entire Red Bull lineup is under stress, like the whole thing. It's like the whole thing's about to collapse, right? They have 100,000 overproduced products that are not moving. It's like, this is a problem. Did someone make a strategic decision on focusing on the wrong thing at some point? 100%. Someone made a massive error in merger and acquisition, in strategic alignment, and where they were focused on, how much noise, how much signal. They actually cannibalized their own brand. They did so much M&A that they became competitors to their own core brand. So super important to pay attention to this stuff. It doesn't matter whether you're doing $1 million in sales or $25 million in sales or $125 million in sales. You got to pay attention to this. It's absolutely vital. Okay. So we spent a lot of time on that, which is great. Next date will be February 28th. I will be dialing in from Hawaii. It is Simone's birthday, so we will be in Hawaii. We will still have it going on. So 100%. It'll be 6 a.m. for me, so you guys have no excuses. It'll be Hawaii 5-0. That's where we'll be. If you know anyone that would benefit from these sessions, absolutely send them my email, give them an invite. Information's all over there. You guys know how to contact me anyways. But yeah, February 28th will be the next one. For those of you coming to my in-person event tomorrow, looking forward to seeing you. And start using this terminology with your teams. If they present something, be like, is that signal or is that noise? They go on too long. I think I got a lot of noise, not enough signal. Can you clarify that for me? You got to be able to start going in and using this language on your teams. It'll help.
Edwin, can I throw something in quickly?
Yeah, 100%.
What kind of struck me more than the noise and the signal is identifying your goals first, because as we've seen, the signals are related to your goals. So if those aren't clear, it would be very difficult to identify what is signal, what is noise. Is that correct?
100%. This is something I talk about. I'm like, if you know what the objective is, the decision gets easier. Because this decision will likely lead me to this objective. If I don't know what the objective is, I'm making decisions and I'm pointing in multiple directions. So 100%. 100%. Yeah, great observation.
And it's going to be a lot earlier than 6 a.m. for you if you're in Hawaii. There's a pretty big time change going to Hawaii. So, so if we're up at 7 a.m.
Is it 2 hours?
It's more than that, Ed. You're going to be up in the middle of the night.
This time of year, it's 3.
Is it 3 hours? Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. 4 a.m. I'll get after it.
Oops.
Yeah, I just want to go to bed. It'll be good. All right, team. Awesome to see you all, and great work. I hope we overloaded your caloric intake today in trying to get your brain functioning. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Edwin. Thanks, everyone.
you.
Have a great day.
Bye.